Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Kennebunkport Selectboard. Today is February 12th, 2026. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Our first order, please, as always, is to stand and pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next order of business is to approve the January 22nd, 2026 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second, and before I call the vote, I neglected to say, Alan, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
Thank you much. So I have and Alan Daggett is joining us via Zoom. I have a first and a second. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan. Fourth, this is an opportunity, it's a public forum, the opportunity for anyone who wants to address the board with any issue that is not on the agenda.
Yeah, he's right there.
Yes, Susan.
Why don't I pull up the information about the tree committee, new business?
I'm Susan Graham. Just want to thank you all for last night's public forum about tour buses. It was gratifying to see so many young people in attendance because there is an energy of young people in this community that we may forget about. I don't hear very well, so this morning I watched the meeting again and I picked up everything, thank goodness. But after the meeting adjourned, but before the cameras went off, David was asked, what about the task force? So I don't want to preempt any of your discussion later. It's your time to talk. But to that point, there have been bus committees in the past, and there's a sad and sorry history of that method of trying to solve this issue. I hope that you recognize that last night at the meeting, there was a palpable feeling in the room of trust and respect for you as a board. And I believe that you need to capitalize on that and hold on to control of this issue. People are putting our trust in you. We trust you to use your judgment because that's why we elect you, to use your judgment. So this is not a good time to delegate when you're in a strong position moving forward. I just want to give you that little oomph to keep going. And I will say today, I expect there are conversations going on within the business community that are going to help you find the solutions. So for that, you deserve credit for opening up the dialogue. And I'll close by saying, who knew that even the tour bus drivers don't like cross street? Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else in the room? Do we have any hands on Zoom?
No hands raised.
All right, go to item 5. This is the audit presentation by Casey Leonard of RKO for the FY25 summary of audit opinion. And Casey, just a moment first, Nicole has something she'd like to address.
Sure.
Hi, so we're pleased to report that the town of Kennebunkport received a clean audit for the fiscal year 25. And thanks to all the hard work of our department directors and staff, expenditures came in under budget while the revenues exceeded projections, which resulted in a general fund balance of $7.1 million. We did have one management deficiency noted in the audit regarding the tax levy that we wanted to go over. And so the tax levy was overstated by $118,291. And this occurred because of the homestead exemption, which is reimbursed by the state of Maine, which we counted twice. Each year, the homestead exemption is estimated as a revenue during the budget process and is included in the revenues when the town votes. When the tax commitment is prepared, the state form that we have to use, we treat the home exemption as exempt value rather than revenue, which requires us staff to transfer the amount of valuation based on the assessor's records. This year, the form was completed incorrectly, resulting in the homestead exemption being included twice in the tax levy. The excess amount can be carried forward and we applied to the fiscal year 27 tax commitment to reduce taxes. And tonight, we are joined by Casey from RKO, who will present the audit results. And we want to thank Casey and his team for all the hard work through the audit process.
Thank you. So yeah, the audit again this year, as it usually does in Kennebunkport, went very well, very smooth, very timely. This is for the year ending June 30, 2025. And so we usually do our pre-audit in June, do our field work in September, and then wrap things up in December, which was the case this year. Our report was actually dated December 31st, which was kind of a deadline, so we were right there. But again, yeah, the audit went very well. So a big thank you to Nicole and her staff and everyone within the town. It really is a team effort. So I put together a little PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go through this, and as I do so, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump right on in.
Do you have the audit one up? This is the investment one, I think.
No. Oh,
This is the
Yeah.
HM Payson one, and we need the RKO one.
should look like this.
Should I
Just,
give it a second?
well, it sounds like you're gonna summarize.
Yes, I am. I
Stuff.
just didn't know. Okay,
go
perfect.
ahead.
Yeah, so if you could go to the next graph. So page 2, there's a summary of the audit results, so just kind of an overview of things. In terms of the opinion on the financial statements, the town received an unmodified opinion, which means the
Can you go
financial
down one
statements.
slide?
Oh, yes, okay, sure. There we go. So yeah, we have a unmodified opinion here, which means the financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, or it was a clean opinion, which is exactly what you want to see. In addition to the financial statement audit, again, in 2025, we performed 2 separate compliance audits. So first of all, we performed an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. It's what's commonly called a Yellow Book audit. And here we considered the town's internal controls over the financial reporting process. So we look at all the procedures that are in place that help to ensure that the year-end balances are materially correct. We also performed tests of the town's compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements. And in terms of that Yellow Book audit, we had 2 material weaknesses, 1 significant deficiency, and 3 recommendations. And I'm just briefly going to go through each one of those. And those are contained in our compliance report. So the first material weakness was related to material audit adjustments. So as part of the audit process, there were several significant audit adjustments posted to ensure that the balances were reported in accordance with GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. And so our recommendation is that management scrutinize transaction reports, especially at year end, to make sure that things are kind of cleaned up before we come in and perform the audit. And then kind of going hand in hand with that, we had a material weakness for grant account reconciliations. So there were significant audit adjustments necessary to reconcile the grant funds to the subsidiary ledgers. The town in the last few years have received a fair amount of federal grants. So we're recommending that all information entered into the accounting system be reconciled on a monthly basis. And also at the end of the year as well. Then we had a significant deficiency. Nicole mentioned it. There was an error in the 2025 tax levy. So taxes were overassessed by $118,000. She kind of already, mentioned that. And then we had 3 recommendations. 2 of these are repeat, so I think you probably have heard these before. The first one is related to segregation of duties. And this comment has been around for many, many years, and it has to do with the small staff size within your finance office. From an ideal perspective, you're not really able to break up your accounting function between a whole bunch of different people. And what that means is that there's a greater risk of fraud and there's a greater risk of errors. And not that any of those have occurred, but as your auditor, I need to tell you that because you depend upon Nicole and she has her hands in so many different areas, that there's some risk there. What we do is we generally recommend that management and the board review financial information on a regular basis. So as board members, ask questions, kind of dig into that financial information. That kind of mitigates some of the risks that I'm talking about here. It's a very common comment. In the state of Maine, your local governments, they run pretty thin. You don't have a finance staff with 12 people in it where we can take all your different accounting functions and give them to different employees. So we see this comment quite often. Sometimes it's a material weakness, sometimes it's a significant deficiency, sometimes it's a recommendation, which is what it is here. I think the town does a very good job with what it has in terms of its controls, but there's still a little bit of risk there. Then we had a comment about the maintenance of capital asset records. So during our testing of capital assets, we found material additions that were missed and unrecorded retainage in the current year. So we're recommending the town retain and update its capital asset records on a regular basis during and at the end of the year. And then finally, we had a recommendation related to disbursement approval. So we performed a test of 40 cash disbursements, and 9 of those were missing a department head approval, a signature approving that transaction. We also, out of 40 credit card transactions, noticed 9 missing approvals. Even though they were both 9, they're different transactions. We're talking about 2 separate sets of transactions. So our recommendation is that the town review its disbursement and credit card approval procedures and provide training to the relevant personnel to ensure compliance. So you just I think there needs to be a reminder that there needs to be approvals on those sign-offs.
And in this case, Nicole did talk to the department directors, because what often was happening was they would put the account numbers, but they weren't signing it. And so just confirming that they need to sign it as well.
So that was the Yellow Book report. Again, in 2025, because the town spent more than $750,000 worth of federal grant proceeds, we performed an audit in accordance with the uniform guidance. That's been the case for the last 3 years. So in 2025, the town expended about $3.1 million in federal grants. This is a program or project-specific audit, so we have a tendency of looking at different grants based on how much is expended in an individual year. So in 2025, we tested the Economic Development Administration grant. And I'm glad to say we didn't have any findings, so a clean opinion there. The last thing I want to mention before I start to take a look at some of the financial results is that, again, in 2024, so the prior fiscal year, the town submitted their financial statements to the Governmental Financial Officers Association for participation in their ACFR program. ACFR stands for Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And as part of that submission, the town received a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. In 2024, there were 10 governments in the state of Maine that submitted. It used to be 20, 25, and there are probably 200-300 governments in the state that could submit, and Kennebunkport is one of them. In the financial reporting world, in the rate, for the rating agencies, it's really a gold star. It's kind of an important thing, and it's becoming less. We're seeing it less and less. There's a lot that goes into submitting. It has to be a timely report. In addition to preparing a really excellent set of financial statements, you have to do a transmittal letter. You have to do statistical tables. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. That's why even though Kennebunkport is a relatively small town, those are your financial statements. There's a lot that goes into that. So kudos to Nicole, kudos to your finance staff for making that happen. Again, it's a rather unique thing at this point.
And it may be somewhat correlated to the amount of federal money we've been able to win and achieve?
A little bit different. This is more on the financial reporting side as opposed to the federal
I
compliance
like
side.
that gold star thing.
It is definitely a gold star. Yeah.
I think we have a round of applause for Nicole,
I
too.
think we do.
Can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Yeah, what is your definition of material?
I mean, I could,
In a nutshell.
they are, that's a very good question.
Well, I'm not
Honestly, I
trying
haven't
to
been
waste
asked
your
it in a
time
long
with
time,
bad
but,
questions.
no, I mean,
Okay.
it's kind of an industry standard.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
You know, we are provided through the AICPA kind of like guidance on what those calculations look like. Could I, I've been doing it for a long time, could I tell you the minutia that goes into that calculation? No, but it's kind of an industry understanding, it's based on revenues or assets. You know, the level of materiality that when we perform the audit for Kennebunkport is obviously much smaller than the city of Portland.
Because of the total.
Yeah,
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 revenue.
number of assets or number of revenues, whichever is
And the-
larger, in an individual fund or government-wide financial statement.
So would a repeat finding year after year ever rise to the level of being a material finding?
It could,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it could rise to that level. There's a lot of judgment when we issue these material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and recommendations. You know, there's a lot of judgment that goes into like how serious is it in terms of financial reporting in the financial statements.
Okay.
You know, a lot of it is judgment.
I'm just, you know, the segregate, the repeat find, and I understand it's structural, and I'll
Yeah.
learn more about that. I'm new at this, but, you know, sort of a repeat finding always gets my attention.
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's, you know, year over year. I
Yep.
mean, you try to focus on the recommendations or comments. So that's sort of where I was going with it.
Yeah, yeah. And in terms of these comments, I mean, material weakness is kind of the highest level. I mean, there's a weakness in your controls. You know, journal entries are kind of getting through the, you know, they're requiring that we make adjustments. Significant deficiencies are kind of in the middle, and then the other comments are like, you know, they're recommendations.
The best
Certainly less
practice type of thing,
serious.
yeah. Like a best practice, that would be
Yeah.
a recommendation to get you up to that level of checks and balances within the finance department.
Correct, correct. Yeah, the segregation of duties comments, I have lots of clients that I report that year after year, and they get very frustrated. And there's not a lot, you can do stuff in terms of your controls and your procedures, but I would never recommend the community go out and hire 10 people to get rid of this comment. It doesn't make any sense.
And that's not where I was going with this.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Some of these other comments, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to focus and try to make sure that they're not repeats.
right. Okay, thanks. Very good answer.
Okay, so on graph 3, I'm going to start to get into some of the financial results for the year. This first graph shows general fund balance. So if you take your total assets less your total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources, you're left with the equity position or the fund balance for the town. And we take your fund balance and we got to carve it up into different categories, and I'm just briefly going to describe what's included in each one of those. So first of all, there's non-spendable fund balance. That represents resources which cannot be spent because they're not in a spendable form. What we're talking about here is inventory. Can't easily convert it to cash, so we're required to put it into that non-spendable category. Then you have assigned and committed fund balance. That represents resources that are constrained by the town's intent to be used for specific things. So these are things that the town is setting aside. And what's included in here for 2025 was $200,000 set aside to balance the following year budget, so the 2026 budget. And then there was $839,000 set aside for carry forwards. And there's a great note in the notes to your financial statements that kind of breaks out what's included in those carry forwards, if you want to take a look at that to get a better understanding. And then unassigned fund balance is what remains after amounts are recognized in the other categories. It's essentially what's left over. In 2025, total fund balance decreased by about $728,000. We'll see some of the reasons why that happened on the next few graphs once we start talking about revenues and expenditures. So this graph on page 4 shows general fund revenues. It's a budget to actual comparison. Some of the larger variances are mentioned here. Tax revenues are over budget by about $251,000, primarily due to the conservative budgeting of excise taxes, which can vary from year to year based on the purchase of new vehicles. You know, the town is generally pretty conservative in that estimate. Intergovernmental revenues are over budget by about $47,000 due to greater than expected revenues related to state revenue sharing, which was over budget by about $17,000, and RSU COPS share revenue, which was over budget by about $19,000. Interest earned was over budget by about $322,000 due to higher than expected rates of return. Obviously, interest rates have been very good in the last few years. And other revenues were over budget by about $44,000, primarily due to the receipt of unbudgeted general assistance and nurse foot care donations. So just kind of an overview of your, of your revenues. As for expenditures, your expenditures are about $817,000 under budget. Again, some of the larger variances are mentioned here. General government expenditures were under budget by about $348,000, primarily due to lower than expected planning and development costs equal to $67,000, and unneeded contingency and tax abatements, which together were under budget by about $263,000. Public safety expenditures are under budget by about $186,000 due to vacancy in the police department and communications. And public works expenditures are under budget by about $315,000 due to vacancies and lower than expected winter maintenance. Vacancies in general have been a significant issue for local communities really since the pandemic. You know, we see this pretty much everywhere we go. You know, hiring is an issue. Graph 6 shows unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. So this is one of those metrics that we look at to determine if a community is financially healthy. The town does have a fund balance policy, which was amended in 2023, and that's to maintain this percentage, which within a range of 17 to 22% of the current year budget. When we did this calculation for June 30, 2025, that percentage was just about 21%. So you're in that range of what your fund balance policy prescribes. There is language I've included in here about, you know, if you're above that 22% or below that 17%, there's language about, you know, what's the next step. But again, you're not really in that position this year. And then the final two graphs are just pie charts for your expenditures for 2025. And similarly, in 2024, the three large categories included the transfer to RSU 21 or for education at 44%, transfers out at about 14%, and public safety at about 12%. 2024 is here, but honestly, the percentages are very similar. Yeah, they're all within 1 or 2%. Not any big surprises. I may have mentioned this last year for education, whether or not you have your own municipal school department or if you're paying into an SAD or an RSU, usually the percentage is between 40 and 60%. That's what we usually see. You know, at 44%, you're definitely on a little bit of the lower side. You know, I've actually, this is the third of these presentations I've done this week. The other ones I did, you know, the community was at, I think they were just shy of 60%. So we see a range. Sometimes we see upwards of 70%. Yeah. That was essentially everything I had. Be happy to answer any questions related to the graphs or to the audit or to the financial statements.
Pretty good.
No, I think it looks great.
Thank you.
Certainly, yeah, and my contact information's on the front of the presentation. I always tell folks I work with management, but I work for the board, so if you have any questions at a later date, feel free to reach out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
So Item 6 is to authorize our annual transfer to the Capital Reserve Fund in accordance with the fund balance policy.
Can I just get the board to vote on accepting the annual
Indeed.
audit?
Sorry for that. So we do need to call a vote. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the, what are we voting on?
FY '25 audit.
Oh, to accept the FY '25 audit.
Second.
I have a first and second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan.
And we have some of those.
Yes.
And now we'll move on to item 6, to authorize the annual transfer to the Capital Reserve Fund in accordance with the fund balance policy.
So moved?
What, Nicole?
No.
Nicole,
We need to hear a little bit of update.
Oh,
So
We still
per,
will move it. Go ahead.
so per the town's fund balance policy, which requires us to maintain 18% of annual expenditures, we are recommending the board to authorize a transfer of $847,958 to the Capital Improvement Fund. This will bring the balance of the fund to $2,583,311 to support future capital projects.
I would like to make a motion. I'm going to read the whole thing now. I'd like to make a motion to approve the transfer of $847,958 to the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund.
Second.
I have a first and second. I'll just add a piece of discussion. It's just important to note how well the town does in putting aside money to prevent large shocks when we have to purchase things like $1 million fire trucks and other stuff. So kudos to that. And any other discussion?
No,
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan. So number 7, this is the annual investment report by H.M. Payson. And Noah, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your last name.
Petrucci.
Petrucci.
It's Irish.
I didn't want to.
It's Irish.
All right.
Touche.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to be in front of you again. I'm just going to give a short presentation, probably about 10 minutes or so. Feel free to interrupt me if you have questions. I am a bringer of good news. We've had a good year in the markets. The S&P 500, which is how we measure the stock market, was up 18% last year. This was after the market being up 25% in 2024 and 2023. So some really nice returns for the overall market. You have a lot of equity exposure, which has helped drive your portfolio. Sometimes we have down years, sometimes we have up years, but we've had 3 really good up years. The icing on the cake is that H.M. Payson actually did better than the markets last year. We were up, our equities outperformed the S&P 500 in what was a very tough year to outperform by about 700 basis points. And where that leaves you, the portfolio is in a very good position. You've got about 75% equities. So if you think about taking 4 or 5% a year, you've got 4 to 5 years here of reserves in cash and bonds to draw from if we have a down year in the market. So that is, in a nutshell, just what I want to walk through in the next few minutes.
That's a good position.
So the first,
Can I, and this is as of December 31st?
correct,
Not-
yes.
Not the
Thank you,
June 30th, okay.
thank you.
Probably even better as of June 30th.
Well,
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
June 30th, 2026, right? Okay, page 1 just shows what I was talking about, 75% equities. This really has been the driver of your portfolio over time. Our focus is for you to keep 3 to 5 years of what you're going to need in terms of distributions in cash and bonds that are relatively stable. They don't earn a lot, but they're there when you need them, and put the rest in high-quality equities. But we just don't want to have to sell those equities when the market is down. So as I said, the portfolio is in very good position. Should we have a down year, which we will absolutely at some point. But in terms of performance, this page, page number 2, shows you, there's a number of different columns here that show you different time periods. The rows show you the different assets that we are invested in. Your portfolio is in the gray, and under each gray line, the white line shows the benchmark that we use to measure our performance against for those asset classes. And then at the bottom of the page, we have the portfolio performance, and then the benchmark for the portfolio. And I'm just gonna focus on the managed equity and the total portfolio, because that's really where the growth is in the portfolio. Again, the cash and bonds are there, they're very high quality, short-term, they're meant to be used as a reserve, not so much for driving performance. So you can see fiscal year to date, the managed equities, that is the stocks we're picking, we're at 15.3% versus 11% for the S&P 500, driving the portfolio to be up 11.2% versus 8.7%. If we look at the previous 1 year, so this ends 12/31/2025, you can see that the S&P was up 18%. We were up nearly 25% in the portfolio. And this is in a year with only 30% of stocks outperformed the S&P 500. That's normally about 47 to 50%. And we did this just by sticking to our process, which is to look for high-quality companies that are trading at reasonable valuations. And then if you look for 3 years, 5 years, and since inception, both on the managed equity number and on the portfolio number, you can see our stock picking has outperformed during those periods, and the portfolio has outperformed its benchmark. So you've had some really nice absolute returns, some really good relative returns. I think perhaps the most important page, and we're not going to do this every year, I mean, the performance is cyclical, but we've had some really good years here. This is my favorite page, on page 3. There's two things to look at on this page. One is the blue mountain, this cresting blue mountain. That's the value of your account since you've been with us. And then the maroon line is money that's either come in or out of the account over time. And you can see the dynamic here. So your account has grown, but money has come out over time. And this is really the power of being in the equity market for the long term. You're invested in high-quality equities, and you've stuck through it through periods of volatility. And because you've done that, this has really driven the portfolio. Had you not been in equities, or if you'd had mostly cash and bonds in this portfolio, that blue mountain would look a lot closer to that red line that's going down, and the fiscal balance in this portfolio would be a lot lower. So to just put some numbers behind this, it's been almost 11 years since we've been managing money for you. You started with 1.2 million, you took out about 482,000. You've enjoyed nearly a $1.7 million gain in the portfolio, primarily from these equities, to get you at the 2.4 million at the end of 2025. And then I'll just spend a couple more minutes just to talk about the portfolio and what we do here. We are characteristic-driven investors, meaning we're not trying to figure out what the Fed's going to say or what the president's going to say or what the market's going to do in any given year. We're trying to find high-quality companies at reasonable valuations. So if we look at valuations, which is measured by the PE ratio, that's the price we're paying for a company's earnings, and you can roll that up into a portfolio. The S&P 500 is at 24 times, your portfolio is at 25 times. So the valuations are slightly more expensive than the S&P. But if you look at the fourth line down there, the returns that these companies are making are much bigger in the portfolio than the S&P. The return on invested capital, and so for those of you who are not familiar with that, that's all the cash that a company gets in a given year relative to what it's put into its business. That's 14% for the portfolio versus 9% for the S&P 500. So a really big improvement in quality and returns that you're getting in the portfolio for just one more multiple point than the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just touch on these last two pages really briefly. This next page shows the sector diversification in the portfolio on the left. The maroon lines are the portfolio. The blue is the S&P 500 weighting. You can see that we're overweighted technology, communications, industrials. This is where we're finding value. This is where we're finding quality. We continue to not have much exposure in materials, real estate, utilities, or energy. There are some managers that like to spread out the portfolios so they look just like the benchmark. In our view, you're hiring us to be an active manager. And so we're not so concerned about being in every different space. We want to be in the best companies, and we will go into whatever sectors those are.
Can I ask a question, because I'm new?
Absolutely.
Are you, the equities, do you buy individual equities or do you buy funds of equities?
Almost entirely individual
Okay.
equities. We will buy funds like S&P fund if we have some extra we make some sales in the portfolio, and we don't have some ideas readily available to put it into. So we might buy those. The bonds we buy are in ETFs. It's just more cheaper and more efficient to use the ETFs than to buy individual bonds.
How many individual equity stocks does the town own?
30 to 40 is our portfolio
Okay,
generally.
thanks.
That's what you see us range over time. The last page just shows you the top 10 securities in your portfolio. This is as a percent of the equity. These are all relatively familiar household names: Microsoft, NVIDIA, Apple, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Meta Platforms, which used to be called Facebook, Amazon, Broadcom. Those are all technology companies, more or less. We also have Amitech, which is a really nice little industrial company, Lam Research, which makes semiconductor equipment, and Thermo Fisher Scientific, which you might know of the old Thermoelectron that used to be it's headquartered in Massachusetts. All very high-quality companies. I would also, just before I end here, point out on the fifth column over at the bottom, the earnings growth of the portfolio for the last 5 years has been 16% versus 12% for the S&P. The dividend growth, one column before that, has been 8% versus 5%. So those are other measures of quality on the portfolio. So in sum, we've been sticking to our knitting, doing the same thing that we've been doing in terms of our investment process for years. That has led us into a lot of these large cap tech companies. We've enjoyed the rise up in the value of those companies over the last several years. It's been a very good period for the S&P 500 over the last few years, and we've had a particularly good year as a firm, so that has contributed to the value of your account. So I will also say kudos for the town for willing to have a position in equities. In our view, you have a very conservative, reasonable position in equities, but it's really driven the growth over the long term. Of course, there will be volatility, there will be down years, but this really has benefited the overall fiscal situation of the portfolio.
Please help me understand, you used the word conservative, and that wasn't what I was thinking when I was seeing these results and looking at the tech stocks and everything. So how do you define a conservative position when you say that?
Well, the equities, in us, we think it's an appropriate equity position because you've got, like I said, if you're going to take 4 or 5% out, you've got 4 or 5 years in the portfolio of that.
Well, I know that the last 3 years have been great.
Right,
But
right.
There's risk. You know, what goes up.
Right.
So you used the word conservative.
Well,
I'm
so
curious.
I think it's appropriate. Let me put it that way. You certainly could, if you wanted, have a higher equity position. According to how we do things, you could have more equity in the portfolio. I think it's a very reasonable position.
75%
Yeah,
equity.
75%. It's your target weight it's actually the target weight in your investment policy statement. So we're not over your target weight.
So,
And the investment
Can I-
policy or the investment strategy is set by whom and when was it set?
The last investment policy that we had was dated 2015, and I think we talked in our recent meeting about making some edits to that.
Yeah, 'cause a lot has changed
refreshing it, yeah.
since 2015.
so
Yeah.
That's kind of
following up on some of these, so
Yeah.
this is as of December 30th, for December 31st of last year. We've had pretty good 2 months to some extent so far this year. Not the best day today, but information technology, is there some concern that some of this is AI driven and therefore the AI returns are starting to get people are getting a little, well, they're just getting a little nervous about some of that, and that maybe there'd be a pullback on that, and how much exposure would this information technology be to AI investing?
Yeah. So let me answer that, and let me also go back to the other questions. I don't want to suggest that there isn't going to be volatility in the portfolio.
No, yeah, no, I get
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
We just think you're in the middle of your policy, we could have more than the target, we could have less. We think we're kind of let me say I feel like it's appropriate.
Yeah.
To address your question about AI, this is the topic du jour, right? Everyone's wondering how, I think the big question is going to be whether there is return. People are starting to see the returns of all this AI investment. That is what we're studying on a day-to-day basis. There's some signs of that, but I think we're still figuring that out. our view on this is, and if you look, we're actually on the right page here. If you look at the returns that these companies are generating, Microsoft, 22% ROIC, NVIDIA, 124% ROIC. The S&P is at a 9% ROIC. You go down the list, we don't think there is a bubble when you look at the returns these companies are making relative to the valuations. I think the more concerning question, or the one we're focused on, is all this investment that's going on in data centers around the country and chips and all that. Does that extend? Are we starting to see some return on the AI investments? And do companies continue to invest? If they slow down the investment or stop the investment, that will impact the earnings of these companies. So it's not like the late 1990s, in our view, where things were just going wildly up on valuation and there was no earnings. These companies have excellent fundamentals and excellent earnings. The valuations on them aren't crazy. The question is whether those earnings and fundamentals are going to continue on this trajectory. That's the real question. We're seeing an investment boom that's akin to the railroad boom in terms of the amount of money in this country that's being put to work. I mean, it's fascinating. So.
When you're, Noah, when you're investing in other towns, so in other towns like ours,
Yeah,
you're following similar type of strategies?
exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with the investment policy statement, you have, every town might have some things that they might want to tweak and do a little differently, but this is straight down the middle of what we're doing for other towns.
Keep up the
Thank you.
good work.
Yep,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you to the board way back when, and to Lori, who decided to start this investment and get out of move us from CDs into the market. They took a risk, but it's as Noah said, it's paying off for us.
Could I have a motion, please, to accept the report?
So moved.
Second?
I have a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan.
So just as the end result, the largest portion, thank you, Noah,
Thank you, Noah.
of the fund is our Kittredge Fund. And so by the will, we have to convey the portions of the return. So we do 4% annually of the last 6 semi-annual balances. And so do you want to give them an overview of
Yep.
that?
Yep, so we take a 3-year rolling average and pay out 4% of that annually. So the total payout split between the 4 fire companies, the total will be $45,181.99. So each fire company will get their portion based on the percentage, and those funds will be released tomorrow.
Do you want to go over the percentages?
Do you want me to go over the
Yeah.
percentages? I can do that.
They're here, they'd like to hear what they're going to get.
So we have the Wildwood Fire Company, they get 16%, so their total will be $7,229.12. Village Fire Company is at 36%, so they will get $16,265.52. Atlantic Fire Company and Goose Rocks Fire Company are both at 24% each, so they will both get $10,843.68.
And then when the fire companies receive those, they invest those.
In their own.
So they maintain the investment level.
Do they use Payson also?
They don't.
Don't?
They have their own set of funds.
So this is a separate trust bequeathed to the town that's separately managed by the trustee with a different finance firm and all of that kind of stuff?
No, this is the one.
The Kittredge Trust is one that was given to the town. The town manages it, but it requires us to, back in the day, the original language was the interest, but
Right.
we took it to court to update it. And so our requirement is 4% of those balances goes to the 4 companies as laid out in the will.
And who invests
This is
the
based-
same?
They use a different company. Jay, do you want to talk to
Okay.
that?
But
So-
you know, the money, the
Payson
4% comes out of the Payson, right? So Payson's investing it, then it goes to the individuals, and they do their own
Yeah, so
individual
Kittredge
thing.
is what we just talked about.
Right,
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
and then you guys invest
So the $45,000 that Nicole was talking about that gets dispersed tomorrow goes into the company-held money. The company-held money is what buys the fire truck when there's enough. So the engine that's coming in March is all paid for with Kittredge money, about $850,000.
Are there 4 different company-held funds, or do you all pool that and put it all in by a single manager? Out of curiosity.
I believe they're all separate.
Okay,
But
they're
there
separate.
also is the annual report of how well it did. So the Charter Oaks, the Kittredge, the company-held Kittredge money, don't quote me on it, but it made about $180,000 last year.
But that report is in the annual report each year.
Right,
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
thank you, Chief. All right,
Did we already make a motion?
Do we have
Yes. You guys voted already.
we did.
I
Okay.
think we did already, right?
Yep, we voted.
What meeting are we on? Is this the third one
Well,
this
I
week?
pulled the trigger a little early, so item 8, we will be appointing John Hall to the planning board with a term expiring June 2027. And John, are you here? Yes, I am. Hi.
Do you want to come up?
Would you like to come and just
Tell
say a
us-
few words?
Sure. I'm John Hall, as you saw. I'm an engineer by degree, a director at Harris Technologies for 40 years. I just retired. Looking forward to supporting this town and collaboration with businesses. I met with
Okay.
Galen?
Galen last week, and we had a nice conversation. I think, the goals of the planning organization are something I can support, and I look forward to working in town. I think it'd be fun to be involved in what's happening around town, so,
Thank you, and just thank you again,
all right,
Henry,
thank you.
for volunteering your time.
All right,
It's
thank you.
much appreciated.
I'll make them, you want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, let Jill
I'll
make the
a
motion.
To appoint John Hall to the Planning Committee
With the term,
with a term until June of
20.
2027.
Correct.
I have a first,
Second.
first and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Dal. Okay, number 9. We will now continue our process of publicly presenting progress and status on the proposed ordinances for this June's election. And Galen,
Good evening, Select Board.
Good
Hi,
evening, Galen.
Hi, Galen.
Hi. So you guys had a long week of meetings, so
Oh,
I'll try to
yes,
keep
Dave.
this short for you. You had a little bit of task assignment for Code and Planning to take a look at regarding the 3 ordinance amendments that are proposed for the June ballot. The first one I wanted to go over was the parking requirements. This is in compliance with LD 427. So in the growth areas, it is requiring that we would only be allowed to require 1 parking space for each residential dwelling unit. Select Board was concerned about what that potential impact could be on our roads. So I provided you with a spreadsheet of all the roads that are in the growth area and divided it by both town and private. And I summarized that data for you quickly, so it's easy for us to have a discussion. There's 176 total roads that are on that spreadsheet. 66 of them are town-owned roads, and 110 are private. And so out of the,
And just so you know, we only gave them the town.
I was gonna say.
oh,
that,
yeah, okay,
there's not a-
yeah. We only need to focus on the
culled
town.
list, But we're happy to share.
Yeah,
the
we're
list.
happy to share you with
Okay.
that data, but we didn't focus on that because you, as a town, we don't prohibit parking
Right.
on those. Instead, usually the HOAs would regulate their own
Okay.
in
Town
that
road.
case. So the 66 that are in front of you that are town owned properties, town
We got you.
roads, 36 of them allow parking. There is no parking prohibition whatsoever. 17 of them have some sort of partial prohibition of parking. And so that means like there's maybe one side of the road, a certain portion, but not the whole road itself. And then 13 prohibit parking in total. So what is that? What do those numbers mean to you? It means 54.5% of the town roads allow parking still. 25.8% of the roads allow partial parking, and then 19.7% of the roads completely prohibit parking
In the growth district.
in the growth district.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the data.
I don't have any questions. We just got this.
Yep.
Great. I have obviously looked at two streets that I think I would be particularly interested in. And, Beechwood Ave allows parking. Old Cape allows parking, but only on the
Northern.
no parking on the northerly side, so on the southerly side of Old Cape.
Yep.
So, that's great, but I think if you actually drove those roads, where would you park, considering how the road is set up? And that's my concern, without going through all of these, is that we may allow parking on it, but I can't see someone parking on those roads. Beechwood Ave, let's take, it seems that you could park on both sides of Beechwood Avenue. I don't know how you get the fire truck down Beechwood Avenue if two cars were parked on both sides of the road. I don't know, does a car have to, there's no curbing. In some places, the road falls right off into a ditch. Other places, there's a little bit more room. So are we talking 4 wheels on pavement? Are we talking 2 wheels on pavement? That's my only concern about this whole ordinance thing is you build some homes on Beechwood Ave or Old Cape that only have one parking spot. I don't know. So I would prefer, over the course of, we need to go through these streets and figure out how realistically does that work with from the police department standpoint, from the fire department standpoint, if they had to go down these roads and there was parking on both sides. How does that work for the town? So that's just my thought.
Yeah, so
But thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you for this. So if we're talking about the parking side a little bit, yeah, so this is a good start. So I guess if we take this and go back to the conversation of the law and, going to one parking spot only required on property, on premise, and then the rest. So I think what we would have to try to understand as a board and what Galen and Lori is, for the streets that have full prohibition, along with what David said, like, Beechwood, parking on Beechwood is bizarre to me, but anyways, the streets that have full prohibition, how would this law impact, those streets? So what, so, and so I know people will say, so here's where I'm stuck, is people say, okay, well, a builder's not going to build a house and not have enough parking because it won't be marketable. So then I flip to the other side and say, okay, then why would we know this doesn't quite work with our town. Like we're looking down at some hurdles right now. So then how would we, why would we do it if we don't think it's ever gonna happen? Because if we put it on paper, it creates problems. And so do we put it on paper? The state hasn't allowed us to put it on paper with caveats, right? Right? So we just blanketly, and I think that's sort of where we're stuck, right? Because once we put it on paper, then it can happen, and then we're not doing, in my opinion, a service to our residents because we're not giving them a solution, like a parking garage. Not that that's, so I don't, it's like a little.
Yeah, it's my feeling, and help me if I understand this correctly, but it seems to me that this was put in place to not have to force people who were going to build housing in areas that were walkable, in areas that had mass transportation, areas where folks could easily get to where they needed to go without the use of an automobile. Then than forcing people to have two, as we do now, right? So that would be a burden. I think, my thinking is that the thought behind this was to not have to force it. Allow it to be one. You can always do two if you want, but allow it to be one. I think I agree with, what I hear Mary Beth saying is that that's not us. We don't have walkable communities yet. Parcel may come to be, my vision, hope, but we don't have walkable communities. We don't have mass transportation. And I think I feel that, it'd be kind of an interesting study, how many households are just one car? I wonder what that would be, I'd be curious. At any rate, I agree that this sounds like it's just not really fit to who we are, and we need to look at the impact of what this might mean. The other point made, I agree with, is you can't go back. You know, you build it that way, these are homes. I mean, it's not something you could, we'll just change it later. And now you've allowed that to occur, God forbid, somebody does build it that way. So I'm uncomfortable with it as well.
Yep.
And do you disagree with my logic?
Well, no, I think the genesis of this bill is more, aligned to more urban concentrated areas where they still had a 2-car space requirement.
Right.
And so the cost of putting in a parking space for a garage, which can be thousands and thousands of dollars per space, that is a barrier to affordable housing in those areas where it makes sense.
Right.
Versus just taking a part of your lawn and making it gravel. It's not a huge expense and a huge barrier to housing. So no, it makes complete sense, and there's other states that certainly have tied the 1 space requirement to where there's public transportation, more walkable down streets. The legislature didn't clarify that, so that's.
And I understand, Galen, you're concerned that you could be in a tough situation.
Yes.
And I think, I appreciate that. But this is I'm just saying, you're asking, not you, we're being asked to put this to the voters for a ballot question in June to approve or disapprove of this. I just don't know if we're there yet. I don't know if I'm there yet to fully understand the impact. I'm thinking the long-term impact, not just trying to make sure we're in compliance with the state, just to be in compliance with the state. But I do know the position you're being put in, so that may have to be something we just continue to work with. So that's just my thought on this part of the parking aspect.
I mean, I would say one exercise that was good to do in going through the ordinance and reviewing this, I do think we do have to update our ordinance for this. There was some outdated references to CMP poll numbers. There is
G9.
a person's driveway was referenced, and I'm like, who is this person?
Yeah,
so like, it is
You
good to
turn
look
right
at
at the
this.
clock farm,
And
go down to the seawall.
Take a left at Dunkin' Donuts and.
so it's good for us to take a look at this and where we maybe need to do some refresh, especially if this law does go in, it is in effect.
Well, it is in
and-
effect, but.
Yeah, if we, go down this and it's the law of the land, we have to, how are we going to enforce, parking on our streets?
I have a question, though, about that. So, it's the state law of Maine. Our charter in Kennebunkport and most of the towns, that the ordinances need to be approved by the voters, right?
Right.
So, if we put it to vote, there's a chance it could be denied by the voters.
Yeah.
So then it wouldn't be wouldn't become the law of the town, and that could happen in any town that votes on ordinances. So I mean, I don't feel we're being sort of like a scofflaw here by not bringing our ordinances into automatic alignment with the state laws, especially since, this is gonna comply. We have almost 50% of the streets that have some restrictions on parking. This applies to 100% of the streets, technically. I mean, I know you have to be in the growth area, you need to have this and you need to have anything, but there's no thoughtfulness in this statute that makes it workable or sustainable for our town.
Can I ask a process Are you guys okay if I just ask Galen a process question about some of these state laws? Is that all right? So I'm thinking about this, and you're in, like David said, you know, you're trying to give us guidance because it's state law, so it's a weird you know, we don't want to put you in this position, we don't feel comfortable with this. What does, like, MMA, like, so this one came up, you said we're already delayed in putting it in.
Yep.
Who's given us guidance for early, like, what association in the state is helping towns understand, you know, it can't be your office, you can't be looking at what's going on the dockets up in Augusta, but what association should we be working with so that we can, just like we did with LD 2173, write to the legislative, you know, now that we know that there's having a public hearing. This one, we probably would have liked to, you know, written in, or getting aligned with Cape Elizabeth or Gunkwit or other towns like us that would have a similar thing to say, hey, could you, you know, bump out those areas, like you said, that don't have mass transportation. How does this work, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely a conversation to have, you know, with our local legislative delegation on, you know, there's a fix-it bill right now for LD 1829. That was a lot of that was, the genesis was the feedback that was received from communities, input, that went into, now we need to amend this and clarify what the bill will actually do. I don't know if there's really been that conversation, that robust conversation about this topic. I think a lot of planners, in our viewpoint, until 1829 came into effect with the 4 on a 5,000 square foot lot. If we had our traditional 40,000 square foot lot size, I don't think this would be an issue. There's usually a lot more land available to folks, and people are going to put more spaces for their vehicles. There's people have 3 spaces or 4 spaces for their vehicles because they have that many vehicles.
Right.
So I think that's the combination of all that together.
Yeah.
Is the real struggle here. But, you know, having feedback to the legislature, they can amend the bill to have less of an impact.
So is there a process for us to go and amend, was this 471?
Yeah, it's,
Or not 471, whatever this one.
Yeah.
Whatever this
Yeah.
one was.
So, but this new bill, that now they've extended the hearing, we could enter a comment on this issue, could we not?
I mean, you
Could we ask
could.
that to be included?
I think it is relevant to this bill.
I think it is too.
Well, that's probably really driving it.
Right.
Pardon?
That's probably what's really making you think about this.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a valid question and concern because it is having an impact on your lot size requirements and your parking space requirements for the town.
Right.
Don't know how much traction it will have. I know I had a conversation with the speaker when I was still up in Presque Isle, and I said the 2-space requirement, because they were changing it back then, way back when, for the LD 2003. I said, there's space requirements. People drive everywhere in the county. We don't have a huge walkable downtown. And it just wasn't relevant to Biddeford, so he represents a certain area. That wasn't the area that we were, so.
Right.
But I think our legislator, you know, she's been very great to work with, and she's been very receptive of our concerns that we've had to address some of these legislative challenges that we're facing as a town.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for this one, will the board take the action and I can draft something up again if we want to try to add something about this one too?
I would definitely like to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. And then we'll try to, so you think we can add it into the 2173 public hearing?
It doesn't hurt to have that conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because that is a fix-it bill too.
Yes,
It's for
a fixed bill.
1829. Yeah.
1829.
Yeah. But it's amending a lot of the same sections.
Because they really, they have a
Right.
huge overlap.
Right.
Right, all right, good.
So you're not offended if we don't recommend bringing this to the June warrant right now?
I'm not offended.
Well, if he
No,
was,
so-
it would
I would
make, I don't
advise
think it would make
legal
a
counsel.
difference.
I'm
That
not
would be
saying
my-
that.
I mean, our job as staff is to bring forward information to you and give you the information and understand the potential consequences. So it is a board decision whether to bring it to the voters. It's just, we're in a process, and we want to know if you are looking to move forward, if you want some different language, because we need to get legal review eventually, and to meet our time requirements. So if you're not ready for this, that's a board decision.
No, I think we'll take our action of trying to add this into the 10-day window timeframe, which we have a meeting next Thursday.
I think they're kind of separate things. I would agree that we need to do that, but then I think we do need to decide whether we want to move this to legal, to forward the process of putting it on the ballot. When does that decision need to be made, Lori?
Well, usually in March, you need to make
All
that
right, so
decision.
we have some time. We have some time.
But usually, by the end of February, we're sending it to council.
I wouldn't think, because I think we're going to have to wait for,
We're
I-
not hearing anybody making a motion to do that, so
yeah.
we're good.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
good, thank you.
thanks. Oh, you have some
Yep.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Valet?
I thought you told us it was gonna be short.
So, valet parking, this is the alternative parking, management plans. So, allows commercial businesses, that if they want to rearrange their parking requirements, that they want to control the parking on their site. There's no additional questions about that. I know we always do a public hearing process if there's questions or concerns from the board.
I think we would go ahead, I think our last discussion that we had with the valet parking, when Galen brought this forward, that we were all good. I think I would make a motion, if we needed a motion, to push this one into legal for the,
I second that.
All right, I have, we can make that decision now, certainly, so I've got a first and a second. Any discussion further? All
Yeah.
in favor on that one?
Aye.
Okay, that one moves forward.
Okay, and last one is the stormwater standards. So I have an update from the GPC, and Select Board Member Gilbert could add any additional comments, but it looks like there was a robust discussion about the stormwater standards, and it sounds like there's still a lot more discussion that needs to occur between the GPC and the Select Board on this topic. Is that fair?
yeah, I would think that, I was talking to the chair this evening, also before this meeting, and so I think we had talked, I think, in a broad way of what we were trying to look at. And so I think we just need to, we were talking about a lot of stuff, so I think it's worth us bringing it forward again and seeing if we can agree on next steps to give direction to the GPC. So let me just remind you of some of the comments we made during our board discussion. I made a comment that it was a very broad brush land ordinance, because it would go against every parcel and land. So I think we all acknowledge that there's the water runoff issue that we wanted to resolve, and, there's issues where houses are raised. So in the language that got put in front of us, there's language where, we would forbid houses from adding fill and raising. They would have to raise up so water could pass through. So there's very good things like that. There was an issue that we talked about, which was with the language and the understanding and the ability for the average homeowner to read the language and incorporate it by themselves without having to go and get a professional to be able to do this for them. So we discussed about that issue. So I think I would propose that we're not ready, we wouldn't be ready to put this on a June ballot. We do acknowledge that we should do something for the water runoff issues that we have in town. But I would like to ask the GPC to narrow the scope and address, the worst of the worst in terms of, is it a lot size? Is it how close you are to your neighbor? Whatever those guidelines that they think they should, to be getting the issues of a neighbor drowning out another neighbor by the way they're doing their house and forcing water off. The other thing I would like to ask, and we talked about, was, is there a list of things that you could do? For example, a rain garden, there's a list of best practices to retain water on your property. And then we would allow the homeowner to pick from that list, knowing that we are, in essence, going to be capturing water. So while might not do it as good as a professional that comes in, but we are doing industry standards in terms of best-known practices for capturing rainwater, and that could be a conversation between, if a homeowner fits in that category of where they have to do, have this discussion, they could be working with, Galen's office on picking what would work best for them.
Without an engineer's input. This is what I just don't understand. If we're really worried about keeping stormwater from running into other folks' property, to have to try to have our staff work on a whole list of factors, and is it this, and is it that? Is this for any revision and new build? Is that the idea? What would this apply to?
Yeah, so it's for any new addition that's 800 square feet or more, or any dwelling that's less than 800 square feet. So that's the,
So can you
Any
say that again?
dwelling
Can you
less
say that
than
again?
yeah, so any like addition, like accessory
Right.
structure, any new addition that's added on to a structure that's
On-
800 square feet of footprint area.
Yeah.
That's increased,
Okay.
or any dwelling that's less than 800 or more than 800, it doesn't matter.
More
for
than
dwellings.
800, right? I mean, a dwelling, it'd have to be.
So it's
Well,
also for
well,
ADUs to
well,
capture
no,
that.
because
Oh, for
it-
ADUs too, it's
yeah.
for all dwellings.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
says
it's all
it-
dwellings.
It's for
yeah,
all
yeah.
dwellings, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it does say exceeding 800 square feet. An ADU does not have to be.
Correct, that's
It
why
could
we,
be 800 square feet, right?
it
So-
could be 800, but it could be less than 800.
Right.
Yes.
So then it wouldn't apply, or it would apply.
It would apply, yep.
It applies to a new 3,000 square foot home too, correct?
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
good.
So it
Yes.
applies to it applies to
Would it,
most things.
But
Yeah.
I guess my point is, if
Yeah.
you're building something, I mean, how much is the engineer, to get this done right, is to have an engineer look at it. If you're on a flat property and there's nobody around you, it's gonna be very quick sign off. It ain't gonna cost a lot of money. But if you wanna look at a whole list of alternatives that you feel are going to, a rain garden or you've gotta have an engineer say, yes, that's gonna work. You can't just have a resident say, I'm gonna put in a rain garden. And that puts a burden on you to say, would that work or not? I think we're trying to manufacture this thing and manage it. And that, it sounds reasonable to me. So I don't understand, what the issue is with the GCP on this.
Well, I think it might be helpful to have a conversation with the GPC and like a conference committee if
Let's
the board's
absolutely do
willing
that
to
before
consider
we
that.
delay this.
Probably.
When things are, yeah,
Well, in fairness, rather than them talking about
Right,
it,
right.
and then it comes here, and then we have questions, and then we bounce it back, it probably makes more sense to do whatever it
Let's,
has to be done.
let's make that happen.
But,
okay,
yeah, and maybe they need to hear what some of the concerns of the board members.
right.
And my concern is I'm not opposed to what they're trying to do, but my concern is that we are putting costs on every resident in the town of Kennebunkport who wants to do anything on their property. The question is, what is that cost, and what is that, I just.
I agree with David.
It's just, we had this conversation 2 weeks ago when we were all concerned that we were gonna ask people to pay $300 for their wastewater. But this, a couple $1,000 for another engineering study for something is, yeah, make them do it. That's all.
But this is gonna be voted on.
Well,
So
has-
if I just wanna make sure I'm tracking, we're voting tonight to put it,
No,
to put it on the ballot.
Not tonight.
Well, I'm sorry, okay,
considering
we're,
putting it
I
on
mean,
the
what, the decision the select board will make
Right.
would be whether to put it on the ballot
Correct.
and let the people decide. As a current resident, I mean, do I wanna have people putting up structures and houses and ADU, whatever, dwelling units, without having somebody take a look at the effect of the runoff on my property?
I do not.
I think, we're not saying it's gonna happen, we're saying we're gonna let the people make the decision.
And we
Yeah,
ought to get a sense of what these costs would be too. That's the other side. We're all saying let's find out what the cost would be relative to what the construction costs. I mean, somebody's building this. We're not, the $300 was someone who was really, very fiscally tight. They're not building a 800 square feet addition. So I don't know. It just seems.
so for me, it seems like so where I'm coming from, and then we'll have the discussion, I think it's a great idea to have the discussion with both groups. Where I'm coming from is, I was just looking for a filter, right? So, okay, if my neighbor, if I'm down at the beach and my neighbor's gonna add fill and put their house up, yeah, they're gonna drain water on me, and this should apply because the houses are very close to each other. If I'm out off of Guinea Road and I'm sitting on 10 acres and I wanna put on 800 square foot garage. So I think for me, it's like, can't we just have a filter? Like, if you have so much acreage or so much whatever, you don't have to have this, because it's another step of the process, it's another cost.
Or can we find an engineered write-off that is very inexpensive, that just says, yeah, there's not gonna be an issue here?
But I think it could be, so I hear what you're saying, I think it's a good discussion, but for me, it's like, there's some level of filter that I'm just looking for, where we know if you have this much land, you're gonna hold on to your, surrounding around whatever you're building, you're gonna be okay.
Can we get every factor that's gonna be in that filter? I have a question.
I think that's a difficult challenge to do, because the topography, the soil type
Exactly.
conditions.
So maybe what
yeah.
would make sense is maybe Will from Acorn Engineering might be willing to come to a workshop.
Yeah.
And you could reach out to him, because they're the stormwater people and could
That would-
certainly answer questions better
That
than
would be
us.
awesome.
Yep,
That's a
That's
great
fine.
idea,
Yep.
Lori.
Excellent,
Yep,
okay.
thank you.
thank you. So we got 1 out of 3 going
That's,
to legal.
that's good.
That's good.
Right, currently going to legal.
Do you have anything
Yeah, we're
else,
out of
Kate?
time.
Probably next
All
agenda
right,
item.
Huh?
we are.
We can
No, we got to March. We were seeking that.
No, you're not listening to Lori.
That's good. So I think we're ready to number 10, and this is scaling again. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 10, thanks.
So I'm going to let Nadia present a demonstration for you all on our new code and plan review software system that we are rolling out for residents to use. And so there'll be a nice demonstration there, and also by Zoom for Alan. Our hope here is that after the presentation, we'll answer any questions that you have. Our hope here is that the plan and zoning review applications, so subdivision, site plan applications, we can start going live after our conversation here. And then we're still going to do a lot more training and discussion before we roll out the building permit side of things. That's a lot more complex of an application process, and we are going through training next week for that one. But Nadia and I have been working on the plan software for subdivisions and site plan, and we're fairly confident that this is going to make the process easier for all of our residents and agents that have applications in front of the board. So Nadia, if you'd like to come up and do a presentation.
Just noted Alan's flannel shirt.
Oh, yeah, you noticed that in the beginning?
It's alligator repellent shirt patterns. Navy SEALs developed it.
Alan, John likes your shirt.
Flannel shirt, I noticed.
I'll sell it to you.
It's Florida flannel. It's Florida flannel.
Good evening. My name is Nadia. I'm the Code and Planning Coordinator for the town of Kennebunkport. I'm going to be walking you through GovWell today, as Galen already introduced. We're going to start at the beginning of the process for a resident, where they sign in. We wanted to show you guys that it's a really easy sign-on process. You just need your email. You don't need to create a password, and it will send you a link to sign in, and then you stay signed in for a month before you have to do it again. So for most people, that would be a lot of the permitting process. So we are confident that this will be a simple thing for our residents to be able to, that it will still be easy for them to submit any applications that they need to. So I've filled in my email here, and the GovWell will send me a link to sign in. Hopefully it comes through quickly. Galen and I were running through the demonstration earlier, and it was taking GovWell a while to send the automatic emails, and
Oh, there you go.
there we go. So this is the user dashboard. You can see any projects that somebody has open at the time, they can see on their dashboard here. GovWell, you sign in one time across any organization that uses it. So if someone is doing projects in a different town that's using GovWell, they'll see those here as well. That's not really relevant for residents, but contractors will be
businesses.
able
Yeah,
to
for
go
contractors,
across
yeah.
towns. There's currently only Cape Elizabeth also uses GovWell in Maine, so I don't know how often that crossover will happen, but it is an option for people. To submit a new project, which is what we're gonna do, you can hit that new submittal button here, and then you search for the town that you will be submitting in. We're in Kennebunkport, so obviously that's what we're going to go with. This is what the resident portal looks like. Today, we're just gonna focus on planning and zoning, but we are working to get building permits up and all the other modules. Those are coming along, but planning and zoning is really the one that we're fully wrapped up with, so we're gonna present on that today. Our most common application type that we receive is a site plan, which is what we're going to walk through. But you can see we also have all of our subdivision application types, the other planning board types, and all of our zoning board of appeals applications are down there on the bottom row. So this is, before you start submitting the application, this is a little pop-up that comes. It is helpful for the residents to see what documentation they might need. We have this list here. I know it's a little bit small on the screen, but hopefully you can read it. That just has a basic list of all of the application materials that are required for any planning board application. People's specific site plans might have different requirements, but this is kind of an across the board, you always need all of these things. We have also included a link to the GIS map to help people with generating the 200-foot abutters list. That's one of the things we get questions on sometimes from residents, so trying to make that as streamlined as possible. You can also see a list of all of the fees. This is another one that we get a lot of questions on. We have a domestic abutter fee, which is $11. We have an international abutter fee. It's less than the domestic one because we can't send certified mail internationally. The post office will just send it back to us, whereas we do send certified mail domestically. We have an application fee of $250 on all of our site plans, and then a legal notice, which is the newspaper posting that we're required to do. So we'll start the application, and I'm actually going to go to a different screen where I've already filled out all of
Can I
the
just-
basic
so,
information.
Can I
Yep.
just ask a quick, so they've clicked on all these things, the fees?
Yes.
Does it calculate it somewhere at the end for them? Is it like when
Yeah,
you send it to
so-
my card?
Yep, and we're going to go all the way through the
Okay.
fee demonstration as well. Oh, just shared the same screen.
Where's Alan?
Hey, Alan.
Look at Alan, and keeps going.
Alan's dominating.
All right, so here's the form that I've already filled out. So you can see you just enter the property owner information. If someone's using an agent, which I would say most of our planning board applications come through an agent. Most residents aren't doing their own planning board applications. Usually it's a contractor or an engineer or some variation thereof. This is the search tool for the property location. This is one of the things that we liked about GovWell is it's easy for residents to find their property. So we're gonna be using the town hall address today, and you can see it pops up here. It has the map, block, and lot, and it's just easy to find. And this is nice because it links any applications to the property and from our side of the system, so any building permits or planning board applications, any application that's going through the property, anyone who pulls this up in our office can easily see any application that's currently active or has been submitted in the past. This is really important to us because we, as the planning team, work in the same office as code enforcement, but sometimes we have human error where we maybe communicating something about the planning board to code enforcement, and so this is really helpful for them to be able to see easily any planning board activity on a property that is relevant to a building permit. This is just, box for box the information that's required to fill in currently on our planning board applications. So we haven't added anything new in here. It's just all of that you would have filled out on the PDF form before. It's just now in this form. And then to finish the application, you will sign here. And then you can upload any documents that go with your application. So I have a few here to act as demo. We think that this will be a simple process for residents, but we also are happy to have people come into the office if they don't have access to a computer or a scanner. You can upload any file type so people can take pictures, but we also are happy, people can come into the office and scan documents at our office if they need to, and we can help them on our office computer if they need help filling out this application there. The next screen will just give them an opportunity to review any information that they wrote on the original screen, and then they can hit submit. This little survey, we actually called GovWell today. We were like, we've never seen this before. They send it out a couple days every quarter, so this is not a constant thing and it will not stay, but it might show up sometimes. Galen and I were very surprised to see it this morning. So once the applicant submits their application, they'll be able to see this page. You can see on the top right corner, it says waiting for staff to review the application. This is, and you can see also down here, there's a status that says submitted. The status will change as we go through the application. This is really helpful because oftentimes we get calls from people while we're in the planning board process to see where they are in their application process. And this will kind of keep them in the loop. Obviously, we'll communicate with them if we are looking for more information or as we have any actions that are needed from them, but they'll be able to see kind of at a glance just where we are in the application process. They can see here any files that are attached to the project and upload any more if they need to down here. On here, they can see any of the property information that's pulled in from our GIS maps. So that has the mailing address and the map, block, and lot, things that you'd be able to see from the GIS map if you went there to look at your property. This activity tab, the applicant can see any activity that's happened on their application. So if we've sent them an email, they can see it here, and obviously they'll get it in their email inbox as well. This is the contacts page. So this is where we as staff can see anyone that they've added as a contact is who we can reach out to regarding the application. It's easy for applicants to invite somebody else to be an owner of the project, basically, so someone else would get the same update emails that they would. There's this share button up in the top right corner, and you can add, if they wanted to add a spouse, or if it was if they wanted to add the agent, or if it was the agent, they might want to add the property owner. They can add anyone that they would like to be able to see the application as well. And then there's this fees tab, which when we generate the invoice, which I'm going to show you guys after this, they'll be able to see the invoice that we've generated for them. So that's the beginning of the applicant side. And then if you have no more questions on this right now, we can move to the staff side, or I can answer any questions here.
200-foot of butters, where did that come in? Have they done that yet?
Yeah, so the 200-foot of butters list is included in the initial application. So if we go to files.
And the GIS and outline something to automatically calculate that?
Yep, if you'd like me to show you how to do that now, I'm happy to.
But that's wonderful.
Yes, yep, it's a very easy tool, and it generates a list that looks like this, with all of the 200-foot butters, or any number. You can put in whatever range you want to.
So they can start this, and they have easy access to update it on their own, like at home, before they submit it.
Yeah,
save
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be submitted.
Yep.
Are you the signature where they draw it?
Yeah.
We all know what that ends up looking like. Is there any concern that we really need a legible signature, or at least a printed name, or?
I think you can also upload it like a picture of a signature. I think I remember that in our discussions with GovWell. If we have a real concern that the signature is not accurate, we can always ask someone to scan us something or send us a picture. But I believe that they can also upload a picture of their signature there. All right, so we're going to move to the staff side. All right, so this is our staff dashboard. We can see all active applications down here, and any that are waiting on additional tasks. But we're going to click into the one that we just submitted. Oh, this is not that one. Okay, now we're going to click into the one that we just submitted. And you can see we have a workflow over on this side here. This is another thing that we're excited about with GovWell. there's always room for human error in processes, and one of the things we liked about the workflow is it just makes sure that we are staying in the right order of operations. We can move anything around if we need to in that workflow, but it's just as nice to have all of those reminders of things that need to happen as part of the planning board process, and to make sure that all of that information is being communicated to the applicant as it happens on our side. So the first person that this goes to, when someone submits an application, it goes right to our admin assistant, Kimmy. She currently processes applications as they come in, so this is a continuation of a current process that we have. There's nothing really new there, so basically she'll just look through and make sure that people filled out their, she'll look down here and make sure people filled out their name and contact information, and she'll mark that as complete. This doesn't mean that that there's nothing wrong with the application. We'll get to that later in plan review when we actually look through it with a detailed eye. But this is just making sure that on the surface, everything looks good. So she'll mark it as complete. And then this is where the fees come in. So Kimmy is also, she currently assesses the fee for the application and communicates that to the applicant and then takes the check when they come in. This is just kind of automating that process. So let's say we have 15 domestic abutters and 2 international abutters. This will automatically calculate those fees based on what we've input as how much each abutter costs, and then we'll also add the fees for the application and the legal notice. The fees are not changing with our move to GovWell. They're still the same fees that we would have charged, that we currently charge applicants. So we'll send the invoice, and we can add a due date. And when we send the invoice, the applicant will get an email with a link to pay that invoice. I'll switch back to the applicant page quickly so we can see.
And Nadia, they get emails each time a task is complete.
Yes, anytime the staff completes a task, the applicant gets an email that task has been completed, and they are ready to move to the next step in the process. So this is just on the fees tab in that user dashboard. You can see here that there is the invoice that we sent, and there it should be an email as well here. And this is the email that applicants will get when we send out that invoice, just saying that payment is required and they can pay the fees in GovWell. If they click this link,
They don't get a detailed itemized list of how.
it will. They can click on this. They can view the invoice here. And this is the invoice. It clearly labels which fees are which and how much each fee is. And then the options for payment, there's the same options kind of that we have now. They can pay by credit card online. There's a credit card fee associated with that. I think it's somewhere between 3% and 4%. They can pay by bank account or e-check, which is a flat fee of $1. Or they can always come into the office and pay with cash or check, which has no fee associated with it. So going back to the staff side, we are just going to mark this application as paid. If someone comes in to pay with cash or check, we can easily do that in the system and move the process along. So we'll just say they paid with cash. And then the applicant will get a receipt emailed that their fee has been processed. So we kind of figured we'd end the demonstration here. The rest of it is kind of into the nitty-gritty of our plan review as on the staff side, which we're happy to get into with the board. But we know you guys have had a long week, and so we wanted to be respectful of the fact that you might not want to see our entire plan review process tonight.
Nadia, do other towns, like Kennebunk, have they already gone to a system like this?
They don't use GovWell, but they have used a digitized system for several years. I'm not sure exactly when they switched, but they do use a similar system that processes everything online.
Okay, great.
So you said it's just us and Cape Elizabeth right now?
That use GovWell specifically, yeah.
Thank you.
Cool,
Thank
no,
you.
it's great.
Thank you a lot.
Excellent stuff.
Thank you, Nadia and Galen, for all your work on
Oh,
that.
just a
Yeah.
quick, will how the public has access to some of these documents now? If they go to the, is that still gonna be available?
Yes, so we think that we'll keep the SharePoint,
Okay.
where we, redact contact information. There is a public portal that people can see active applications through GovWell. We made sure with GovWell that no contact information is included there. They basically can see a property address and what type of application is associated there.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a good question. Good. Very good.
Thank you. And so we're moving to item number 11. And this is to consider a donation of a rescue vehicle from the Port Village Fire Company to replace a vehicle called Squad 11.
Squad 11. Good evening, everybody. My name's Tricia Shotwell. I'm a member of the Kennebunkport Fire Department and also a member of Port Village Fire Company. Our president, Tim Good, could not be here tonight, so I'm representing the fire company. There are some pictures of our new squad behind you, if you want to take a look at them. Our current squad, the one we've been using for the past 13 years, was purchased in 2012, and it was manufactured in 2006. It was to give the department a support piece for all fire events. It was basically a rolling toolbox. And this truck, the one that we have currently, was on the master plan to be replaced in the next 5 years. The old squad has served the department very well for the past 13 years. During this period, we have endured a tremendous amount of weather events, flooding, et cetera, and a changing demographic of membership. The new squad, the pictures that are up on the screen, is a 2026 Darley Max Tactical Pumper. It's a Ford F-550 with four-wheel drive, has a 1,500 gallon per minute pump, a compressed air foam system, a high ground clearance with 40-inch tires, and an extended cab that seats 4. It will carry, and it's currently packed, it carries hoses for fire prevention, extrication equipment for MVAs, hydraulic rescue tools, stabilizers, step chocks, and wood cribbing. It also has ice and water rescue equipment, hose and pump for flooding, spare SCBA and air bottles, ladders, fire tools, a chainsaw and cones. It also has a medical bag and an AED. This vehicle will give the department more flexibility in our response, and the smaller size will enable more firefighters to drive and operate it. The size of this truck also allows it to get down smaller private roads and driveways that are more challenging for a larger vehicle. We are very excited for the future of the new squad and its role on the KPFD fleet. Port Village is here tonight to donate the new Squad 11 to the town of Kennebunkport.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Then I will entertain a motion.
Jay, did you have anything you needed to add?
No, I just got up in case there was a question.
All right, so I will make a motion to accept the new Squad 11 rescue vehicle and place the donation on the June warrant. Is that what?
Yes, so you can accept the donation, but you need to place it on the June warrant. It has to be accepted by the voters.
Okay. So I made the motion.
The language in the town warrant allows you to accept donations for up to a year.
I'll second it.
Okay, got it.
So we have a first and second. Any further discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Have you driven it yet?
Yes, we call it the Beast.
The
Yeah,
the
it looks like,
I don't know.
well,
Beast is the
no,
bigger one, yeah.
yeah.
Mini Beast.
Yeah.
So item
This is
12.
the Tasmanian devil.
We will authorize, please, equipment for the police and fire department vehicles. This is the retrofit.
Yes, good evening. So if you recall, we were before you back in November for the purchase of the 2 new police department and the 1 new fire department vehicles. We had to order those. It wasn't anything they had on the lot. We just took delivery of the new Ford Explorer a couple weeks ago. The trucks are being built as we speak. There's a little bit of a lead time on the equipment. and like anything else, build costs have gone up. So as a recap, we had budgeted a total of $230,000 to purchase these vehicles, as well as do the upfits on them. Purchase vehicle price was $139,517. That left us $90,483 to upfit the vehicles. So we did, we procured some quotes from McGovern MHQ. They're a large outfit down in Marlborough, Massachusetts, a lot of agencies are going with right now. The total build cost for all three of those vehicles through McGovern was $96,859. The second quote we got was from Nevo. We've actually used those now for several years, at least at the police department. I've had a real good luck with them, haven't had any return issues. A few minor things here and there, but their customer service is great. They're very responsive. They provided us with a quote of $82,177.50. And then Southern Maine Communications, which is right over here, right next door to us in Sanford. Currently, they have more work than they can handle right now. They're having some staffing issues, and they declined to provide a quote. So based on price and based on, our recent history with our builds at Nevo, I'm recommending authorizing all three upfits to Nevo in the amount of $82,177.50.
Great.
Okay.
Do you agree, Chief Everett?
I was just supposed to stand back here and look tough.
Yeah,
Yes, I absolutely do.
So I will make a motion to award the bid to Nevo for $82,177.50.
Second.
have a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Good stuff. Item 13, this is an update from the Climate Resiliency Committee. Dave Jordan is here to represent the committee.
Lucky number 13.
Lucky.
Good evening, board members. I'm Dave Jordan. I'm the secretary of the Climate Resiliency Committee that was chartered last year as part of the Climate Action Plan. And our job, or our charter, is to help implement community outreach projects and support town staff and boards. A little vague, but we're trying to find our way. We got started last year. We have 5 members that are holdovers from last year in the new year that started in October. And Nadia supports us very well. We appreciate his help. And John also is supportive of and represents the board at our meetings. We have been doing a couple of holdover activities from last year. We try to keep track of climate workshops. We attend them and bring that information back to the board members. And we're also keen to keep track of what other town committees are doing that overlaps with this topic. I think we have some more to do to try to coordinate our various committees' activities. We've also supported the Southern Maine Energy Navigator program. We'd like to try, we continue to talk about how to help with outreach for that. That's sort of holdover from last year. A couple of new things we're working on. We have started to investigate the idea of whether it's worth solarizing town municipal electrical needs. This is a follow-on from a UNE project last year, which looked into whether a solar farm could be put onto the Old Town landfill that would service the community. Turns out that that's very problematic because of the lack of three-phase power to that site. However, that doesn't necessarily preclude us looking at, on a smaller scale, the municipal needs of the town. So initially, with the help of Nadia and the staff of the town, we've looked at the electrical usage through all the different facilities in the town. and kind of compiled and analyzed that, looked at the history of it. And then I contacted Maine Solar Solutions to see if they would be interested in looking at this with the proviso that I have absolutely no authority, and I can't sign them up to anything, and anything would have to be bid, of course, and going through a process. So they understand that. But they were very keen to lend us a hand in assessing this. So that's going on right now. We're having a little back and forth discussion, and I hope in the not too distant future we'll have some information to assess, to see whether it's worth presenting it to you folks, to see whether you want to go forward with a plan. That's all I can really say at this point. We're just beginning that conversation. There's a few things going on the dunes at Goose Rock's Beach that I know you're aware of, the engineering study, and there's also a LiDAR survey project, and we have taken an interest in that. John has suggested that we provide a liaison to that activity. So I believe that was accepted by you all at the last meeting. And so we don't really have any news on that yet, but I'm sure in the spring there'll be some activity, and we'll take a look at whatever reports or preliminary designs or whatever they come up with, and take a first crack at that. We've also taken an interest in the dune grass plantings. We've been following that. There's some replanting maybe that will be needed in the spring, and we have no formal connection with that project right now. That's a UNE and Kennebunk High School effort, and we're very interested in supporting it if we can. So we'll keep that in mind in the future. So that's about all I have for you. And are there any questions?
Just remind, who are the other 5 members?
Well, Fred Stafford is the chair. Keith Sakaran is on there. John Crowder is the vice chair, and Cynthia Dominy.
Okay.
All were on last year.
And then you.
And me,
You.
yeah, I'm the secretary.
Gotcha.
So, any questions?
Thank you,
No,
David.
thank
Sure
you.
enough.
Thank you. All right, item 14. Discussion of the Goose Rocks Beach parking permit fees and the Dock Square parking lot fees for 2026. Do you want me to start? Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Nadia. Thank you.
Good evening, Board.
Good
I'm
evening,
Yanina
Yanina.
Nicholas, Director of Support Services. So every year, we come to the board to approve Goose Rocks Beach stickers, or this year it's going to be a little different, but Goose Rocks Beach parking fee, as well as Dock Square parking lot fees. So for Goose Rocks Beach fees, you increased those fees last year. Just reminder, taxpayer seasonals to $10 per season, non-taxpayer daily $40 per day, non-taxpayer weekly $200 per week, and non-taxpayer seasonal is $325 per season. So we suggest to keep fees the same. One, because you increased them last year, and 2, it seems that this fee schedule works and it aligns well with nearby communities and what we see for similar community. Do you have any questions about this schedule? About Goose Rocks Beach schedule?
Is there any concern or questions about maintaining the price for Goose Rocks Beach parking?
I do want to make just one addition. We discussed the change in the system for the Goose Rocks Beach. So this fee will be plus the fees from the vendor for the new system.
So, right,
Say
the
that.
residents would pay like $10 for the year, and then the little fee that they have,
A
like
buck
a
or
couple bucks.
something?
Vendor, yes. So currently vendor fees we have would be for taxpayer seasonal would be additional $1.95. That's through the permitting portal. So they will have to
Yeah.
purchase those
through portal, that's a vendor fee. For non-taxpayer weekly, that would be extra $3.95, and the same $3.95 for non-taxpayer seasonal ones. And daily will have a little different fee because it will not go through the permitting portal. They will have to purchase it at the kiosk at the beach. So it's gonna be, it's probably gonna be 2.95% plus gateway fee, like, of 30 cents.
You're gonna make me do the math.
2.9,
I'm-
well,
On
3%,
$40,
$4
so.
would be 10%.
$12
$2
cents.
would be 5%.
Okay.
12 cents,
So it's,
right?
it's a general credit card
Oh,
fee.
got it,
We
got it.
have the same fee when people pay through our online system
Sure.
using their credit card, basically.
Sure.
So
Okey-doke.
just want to make that clear,
Plus
that will
fee.
change.
Alrighty.
So no questions about Goose Rocks. Okay.
Do you need us to make a
And-
motion?
No, actually, we have one other piece.
Oh,
and
so
that's
they'll
for
be
the
put
dog-
together.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
I'm
for
just
the
taking
dog
it piece by
square.
piece. And so the next piece I want to discuss is Dog Square parking lot fees. So in 2024, the board increased the fee for Dog Square parking lot from $4 per hour to $5 per hour. So it was in effect for the summer of 2024 and the summer of 2025. So every year, we try to reach out to the nearby communities and see what they charge, what's their proposals. So I reached out to a few similar communities, so Biddeford, Old Orchard, Aganquit, Wells. I didn't reach out to Kennebunkport because they don't have municipal parking lot, so it didn't make sense to reach out to them. But what we see is there is a spread of fees. So it starts from $2 per hour and it goes up to $8 per hour. Those fees depend on who uses the parking lots. So $2 per hour predominantly used by workers in the city. So Biddeford has $2 per hour, but it's meant for workers who use the municipal lot. And then we have all the way to $8 per hour, which is in Aganquit, and those are the parking lot that's close to the beach. So Wells is pretty much in alignment with what we have, same with Old Orchard. I do propose to increase the fee to $6 per hour, and that's what I mean in alignment. So I think this will make sense financially, and what we see across the board. There is a high demand for our parking lot. We have just one municipal parking lot. It's right in the heart of downtown, so it makes sense to increase it by $1, I think.
And is there a fee for that one too, or no?
Yes, there will be a fee. Again, it's the same, the card processing fee.
Yep.
So it's just general across the board card processing fee, just like what we have. So it's 2.95%.
There are other options to pay, so the credit, even if they pay with the credit card, doesn't matter whether they walk up or pay, they'll still have the 2.5. Yeah, they still have the credit card fee, of course. There's no
Yes.
cash option.
There is no cash option. So for the Dog Square, as we discussed last time, we're also changing the system. But machines that accept cash are actually more expensive these days than those that don't take cash. Just because cash is going away and they need to purchase more hardware to produce machine with cards.
Yeah.
With cash slot.
Cash cards, yeah.
And you think it will generate an additional $120,000 for the town?
If the parking.
Based on the number of transactions we've given
Yeah.
in a year, another dollar would produce that.
So if this parking will stay the same, it will
Yeah.
produce that much.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 parking fees as follows. Goose Rocks Beach daily at $40, weekly at $200, seasonal at $325, residents at $10, and Dock Square parking lot at $6.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yanina.
Thank you, Leonina.
All right, now, item 15 is just a review and update of the Motor Coach Community Forum that was held Wednesday evening.
We were all here. I think it went very well. We had a full room, right? 69 people is the capacity of the room. It was
definitely 69
69. There were a few people standing. We had quite a few people on Zoom. Oh, no, I think it went well. I think that it was important for the businesses to hear some of the residential concerns. I think it was important for the residents to hear how some of the businesses, how important some of the tourism activity is for some of the businesses. I do feel that there were some things that clearly could be changed in the current ordinance. And there seemed to be agreement, not that we did a poll, but there seemed to be agreement, or you could feel it from both the tour bus operators.
Who were also here.
Who were also here, which was very good. I think it was good for people to hear how that process all works. I think we have a lot more we could ask them. They seem to be willing to help and work with the town. But I think that there are definitely some things that we can do to improve the situation on Cross Street if we need to. Well, we do need to. I'm not debating that. But I would say that for the most part, people, I think, we heard from all three sectors. We heard from the business sector, we heard from the residential sector, and we heard from the tour bus operators. So I think that was great. I think Susan Graham's comment tonight, I think a lot of people did leave.
Yep.
Feeling
heard
and hopeful, and I think they are looking to us to continue this conversation. We have the short-term situation we need to deal with for this season, and then we probably have some longer conversations we need to have about how this is all going to look based on how well we do this season, which is not going to be perfect. I'm going to put it out there. It's probably not going to be perfect. But we're hoping for an improvement of what people have had to deal with, and we probably need some longer-term solutions too. And I'll open it up to anyone else who's got thoughts or opinions.
I certainly second everything that was said. It was, I think, a very useful, and I know, it hadn't occurred to me, but what Susan pointed out, there were a lot of young people here.
There were.
Which really was cool.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, I agree with everything you said, David, and you feel the energy in the room and the agreements, the acknowledgement of the issues from all parties, I think was very helpful.
Yeah, great meeting.
And I will, we received a lot of emails from folks, residents and businesses. We've kept those as part of the record. If anyone else wants to send something in, we're happy to keep that. And again, this is to be open and transparent, so people should feel free to, if they have opinions or they have concerns or questions, they should feel free to reach out, because we're trying to make sure that this is a process that involves as much of the community as we can. So,
Thank you.
So
All
are
right.
we talking it was
well, then,
next
it
steps?
does say next steps. I think the next steps are that we probably should have a conversation about what we did here in terms of the current ordinance and things in there that we might be able to easily agree need to change, to bring, and I think we probably should have a conversation about forming some type of group to deal with the longer range conversations. The one thing I will say that I did hear, that was brought up by the chamber, there was, they mentioned businesses, they mentioned some of the tour bus operators. The one thing they forgot to mention were the residents. And I would just make it very strongly, and I want it to be known, that residents need to be part of that task force. If we're going to do a task force, then they definitely need to be part of that conversation. They can't be the forgotten people again, so.
And to assure Susan's concern, we will not abdicate decisions or authority to this task force. It's to get voices, and the board will make the decisions.
So are we, just to get some idea from timeline, so I know,
Yeah, go ahead. No, ask the question.
okay. So Janina had taken us through the reservation system. And is that something that, what is the timeline? We had sort of talked and heard about 2 buses, 20 minutes, Are we at a point, what are we thinking in terms of closing this off for the short term?
In terms of?
In terms of moving forward.
Pulling the trigger.
Pulling
Pulling
a
the
trigger,
trigger.
I guess my question I know that, look, the season, as we have come to figure out, the season actually starts the last week in April,
Yeah,
technically. Not a lot of buses, there's very few buses but there are buses that will arrive the very last week, I believe, in April. I didn't bring my calendar tonight, but, April, there's a few buses in May, there's a few in June, picks in July. It's the last week in August through September and October. That's almost every day. So I think we need to try and get this reservation system, if that's what we're gonna do, and figure that out. Need to reduce the number of buses. I guess I would look to Laurie or to, is the time, what do we need for timing? Because we still have to have a public hearing and,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
So,
it's a
I
sense.
mean, Yanina reached out to some other people, and she has found another potential option for a reservation system through our current recreation software, using a portion of the facility section of that, so she's looking at that as well. I think if we want to change the ordinance, it requires at least 7 days' notice, and then you need to give the newspaper 7 days, so you're talking 2 weeks. And so if you decided tonight, for example, not that you are, we could have a hearing at your second meeting in February if we had gotten an ad in the paper by Monday morning, which is a holiday. But anyway, so we need to just count on 2 weeks to have a hearing. And I think, we probably need to determine some backup. I did reach out to Kennebunk today as well, trying to confirm whether they would have some additional spots for outlets if we had too many buses arrive at the same time. And of course, we need to get staffing in place, which is probably the biggest challenge, to have somebody who can meet the buses. So I think that you probably want to be making the decision by your first meeting in March.
So we would go for a public meeting at the first meeting in March,
I
which
think
probably, I think probably rather than rush it for the next meeting, makes more sense.
so are we at the point now where, barring what reservation system that we're gonna use, are we at the point now where we're able to, for the short term, just talk through the ordinance change, or are we looking, for more input or information?
I think I would like a little bit more information, talk it through. Maybe we can make this an agenda item for 2 weeks to talk it through, plan it, and then have the public hearing 2 weeks after that. I think we probably should go through it and figure out, prepare for 2 weeks from now to actually come up with that.
Yeah,
I
that's our
think-
task for the next 2
Yeah.
weeks, is to get that solidified
Yeah.
for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think in 2 weeks, we'll hopefully have heard back from Kennebunk, gotten a better understanding where they are. Yanina will have done the additional research on software, so to make a recommendation on the best reservation system, and we can bring the ordinance language back before you to just review it and make sure everybody's good with it.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So that's what I would propose.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
If there are no other thoughts, I'll ask for other business. Joe?
Yeah, I have some other business. Had a great meeting with the Shade Tree Committee this morning, and they're working very hard. They had the report from the arborist, Noah, and it was exceedingly thorough and pointed out a number of problematic tree issues. And Eric was there, and I think, he added a lot to the thing, very collaborative. But the bottom line is that they're gonna need a little bit of budget moving forward. And, I don't go into numbers because we're gonna enter the budget cycle briefly. But I mean, I think it's not an inaccurate statement to say that they've basically sort of run out of the 2026 budget already. And they have some commitments that they need to do before the new budget cycle and the new allocation. So just put that out there, and we can obviously get more information and numbers as we, roll down through the budget cycle.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else?
No?
No. I will just keep you another update on the Neighborhood Housing Trust project on Beechwood Avenue. All 6 units have been, has been selected. I can't go into all of the details, but I can tell you that it will currently be 2 teachers from the local school system have been selected. We have a nurse who lives in town and her family. We have a local business, person who works in a local business, and his other half, who is also a teacher, not in our school system, but in the local school system. So I think it actually is going to be a great bunch of people. And we have a retiree who lives in town who's going to be able to hopefully buy one of them. But yeah, it should be a great, and I think we have achieved what we had tried to do, was to have these people be local people who are going to have a chance to be homeowners.
Marvelous. That's great news.
So keep your fingers crossed that it all goes well with their mortgage. They are now all in the mortgage application process.
That's it, great
Yeah.
news.
Mary Beth?
I was just getting clarification. So if we go back to the parking, were we going to submit something again to the open hearing for 2173, or were we not going to add something to that?
Well, I think we were going to do that.
Okay, we're still doing
Yeah,
it, okay.
I understood. If you're willing to take a first cut.
Yep,
then
I'll take a
we'll
first
do that
cut.
together.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think I'm still not clear, and it might be because we're on our 3rd meeting. But I'm still not clear, and I'd really like to understand this at some point in terms of how do we get heads up on some of these, like, is it MMA, is it Southern Maine Planning and Development? Like, who's giving us heads up on some of these?
It's Maine Municipal.
Maine Municipal?
Yeah, Maine Municipal has their legislative page on their website. If somebody wants to be very engaged, you can run for the Legislative Policy Committee, that they actually take votes on all the legislative municipal bills. Southern Maine does some follow-up as well. And then the local planning groups, I think, follow some of those. I mean, like the police chiefs follow the criminal bills, and so everybody follows a section, but MMA follows it all.
Okay. Thank you, thanks.
And one piece I have is just to remind folks that next Thursday, the 19th, we'll have a joint Beach Advisory Committee, Goose Rock's Beach Advisory Committee, and Select Board meeting to discuss plans for relocating some of the parking at Goose Rock's Beach. So that'll be 6 o'clock next Thursday.
Here.
Just another meeting.
Because we don't have enough meetings.
We don't have enough. They're just, and Lori?
I don't have anything.
Great. Bet you go.
I'm all set.
And Al, yes, sorry, Alan. Out of sight, never out of mind.
Okay.
And then we need to forward the treasurer's warrant for February 12th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and second. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
And we
We're all
got,
adjourning.
we are adjourned. And all in favor?
Aye.
Be well, Alan.
Thank you for that clip.